that. You just have to account for that in the strength and conditioning portion, right? So females, research has shown that females are actually at higher risk of knee and back injuries because of these physiological differences. Okay? So when it comes to training, coaches, you just have to design a proper strength and conditioning program to target those muscles that might be weaker or tighter. And then you can also incorporate more neuromuscular or plyometric training to improve agility and safe landing mechanics. Because during puberty, if any of you had the upward giraffe stage where like your legs much longer than, or your legs much longer than your torso or anything like that, balance and coordination becomes an issue for some of them. So focus more on agility and balance at that time as well. And again, proper diet, as I had mentioned before. So that's a summary of the physical considerations. Let's move on to the emotional considerations next. So with females, compared to males, they tend to have a lower perceived confidence in their athletic abilities. So they tend to be less confident in what they can do athletically compared to boys. In terms of goal orientation, females tend to be more task-oriented versus boys who are outcome-oriented. Outcome-oriented meaning that they are just focused on the outcome, whether they win or lose the match. Girls, on the other hand, they do more, they respond better with tasks. Like, for example, if they are trying to get a particular goal in action, they can do the goal in action yesterday, but they can do it a week later. That's an improvement in that task of being able to goal in that particular week. So focusing or trying to encourage the girls with that encouragement and that feedback and saying, hey, you weren't able to do that last week, you can do it this week. That would give the girls some more confidence on how they are moving forward, because they're not comparing themselves with other people. They're comparing themselves against themselves and how they are improving as time goes along. Self-confidence tends to dip as well, especially during puberty due to different societal and peer pressure. The menstrual cycle, what does that not affect? So all the other ladies in the room, you know, when that time of the month comes, emotions all over the place, you're irritable, you're hungry, the list never ends, and I don't think I need to go into good explanation with that, okay? The menstrual cycle is just the menstrual cycle. And then this is all the reasons why positive language matters, right? So the way you talk to boys is not the way that you would talk to girls, okay? Boys do this whole roasting thing, and like if you miss a ball or something, you hear boys say, what happened to you? So stupid, how you missed that ball? You missed your birthday. And they would just laugh that off, right? But if you talk to a girl, she might start crying, okay? So they need positive affirmation, and you'll see other girls come around that girl and be like, it's okay, like you'll get it next time, like we work on affirmation. So coaches, talk to us next. You're giving me some extra, you know, love and care and all of that, okay? Was there an extra joke in the back of I feel kind of left out. Okay, I'm going to end on careers in sports science. So I'm going to touch on a few of the specialized careers that need postgraduate degrees to get them. And the reason why I'm focusing on those is because most of us are already familiar with the common ones. So I think a lot of you in here might want to be the next Anissa Muhammad or Stephanie Taylor. And that's fine, like you can aspire to be an athlete, or sometimes you hear like physiotherapist, sports commentator, sports manager. But there are many other fields that are present within sports science that you can dive into, like myself. I don't know how many of you all have been biomechanics and exercise physiology before. But on the next slide, I'm going to highlight again, these are all careers that you need a postgraduate degree for, so at least a master's degree. But it's very rewarding to enter any of these specialties. So on the top right, you have the sports psychologist, so they would work on the mental fortitude of the athlete. We have the sport nutritionist, so they are trained to tailor diet plans specific to your needs. So they can help with girls who are going through their menstrual cycle, or just at any point throughout their journey. If you have different medical conditions that you might need to consider, they can tailor a diet plan to any of those needs. The physiotherapists, I think most of us are familiar with those. They help with rehabilitation and injury prevention. biomechanics and then exercise physiologists. As me, I actually cross both of those two fields. So biomechanics is actually applying principles of physics to the human body to analyze how forces affect the body. Right? So I can go behind, take a video of you doing a cricket shot. I can use different tools to measure the angles of your elbows, the knees. I can measure the velocity of your arms, the backs. Like, give me a sensor or a technology and I can measure it and tell you how to improve it. And then the strength and conditioning coach. I think most of us are familiar with that as well. So these are, again, just a few. There are actually many more. If you'd like to hear about any of them, you could always talk to me after the talk. And I'll be more than happy to share some more details about each of these fields that you can enter into. Right? So in terms of the biomechanics, cricket is actually a great example of a sport that uses biomechanics a lot in the sport itself, right? So I don't know if you were aware, but all of these things that are in the pictures here, so even the umpire decisions that they use to determine if somebody is really out from an LBW or not, that ball trajectory or that ball path is actually using principles of physics, equations of motion, to determine where the ball would have gone if that cricketer's leg was in the way. So they get information like what angle the ball made contact with the ground, the air velocity, friction, all that stuff. The computer uses physics, biomechanics to project where the ball would have gone, right? The shape of a bat, that was actually designed by somebody who has knowledge of mechanics to know how to design the bat so that you can get the most power when you hit a ball. And then injury prevention is also another way that biomechanics step in to try and tell you, okay, go this way instead of this way because you reduce your risk of injuring your rotator cuff muscles. So those are, in terms of the applications, those are what biomechanics would be used for to improve performance, right? So I know that was a lot of information that I threw at you just now. So to recap, the main takeaways that I want you to leave with when you leave tonight is that one, for coaches, again, a reminder, train by biological age, not chronological age. And again, the way that you can track that growth is through peak height velocity. Consider all of the impacts that the menstrual cycle can have on a female athlete. And then for the young ones in the room who are still aspiring to become something in terms of your career, there are a wide range of careers besides athletes and all the other common ones. Like, go explore. Again, you can talk to me, ask me how I got to where I got to, and I can talk about this all day. And I'd like to leave you with a quote from former West Indies captain, Marissa Aguilera. She says, "Women understand that there are barriers, but it doesn't take away what we have to offer. Don't allow fear to overcome whatever you want. We are here to make a difference." All right, so that's it for me. That is my email up there in case anyone wants to contact me afterwards. But that's it for me, so thank you for your time.
I think we can do better than that after I saw how. So thank you, Dr. Thomas, for that engaging and thought-provoking presentation on biomechanics, female exercise physiology, and paving the way for progress. We do wish you all the best in the future. So I know you have a lot to ask of. So you all are young. I am older, so I'm writing on my notepad. And I know you have your phone and you can take a note of the question that might be running through your mind so that you can, we'll have a question and answer segment at the end after the panelists have presented. And you are excited, I'm seeing the excitement on your faces, young ladies. She spoke, Dr. Thomas spoke about all those things that bother you, that those male coaches don't understand, right? Yeah, and I know we don't want to tell our dads too much about it because they say, yeah, you can do it and this and that. So she'll tell you a little more about that, right? So make sure you have your questions on your phone in notes there so that you can, engage with her afterward. So moving on, we are halfway through And our next topic is the young athlete. Yes, we do have a lot of young athletes here, young cricketers. So to take us through this part of the panel discussion will be Ms. Lizette Khan, a dedicated educator with over 26 years of experience. She began her teaching career at Holy Name Convent, Port of Spain, and has served as acting principal since 2019. She holds a BA in French First Class Honors, postgraduate diplomas in education and conference interpretation, and an MA in media, mass communication, and public relations. Ms. Khan has lectured at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, and taught at the Alliance Francaise, Port of Spain. Passionate about preserving traditional art forms, she is a member and public relations officer of the National Parang Champions Voces Juvenis. I hope I have that pronunciation right. Committed to empowering women, she strives to shape young leaders. School, which has done very well in sport. So I can only speak from my own experience as a student when I was young and as an educator at Holy Convent. So my experience would be quite what a lot of young Trinidadians would experience. I attended a very small rural primary school in a little village called Lega Europe, which outside of San Grande. I look back to remember when we had female persons or experts involved in sport. For us as girls in that small school, it was at the behest of a male teacher. If he was willing to train a cricket team to a person to shape, the principal insisted that we had to take part in a league or so. A few weeks before, we might have a few practice sessions at lunchtime, and then we go on to play, with varying degrees of success, of course. I realized that for many athletes, their first trainers are older children. They pass on their skills, and at play, you start to develop those skills. And then you rely on the goodwill of your teachers. Because for most schools, at least back then, I'm talking about 30 and 40 years ago, we didn't really have trained personnel coming into the schools. I think in all of my primary school experiences, one person sent by the Ministry of Education, and that was netball. And she would go through schools in the Northeastern District, from school to school, and you had a few sessions with her, then of course you went off and you played, and often lost. But I had the privilege of attending a suburban girls' school, where clearly, now that I look back as an educator, I can see that there was some foresight and vision on the part of the administrators of that school. For ensuring that there were the facilities and infrastructure needed to give girls some kind of opportunity for sport. However, in a very competitive academic environment that we know Trinidad is, quite often sport, when we say it is extracurricular, the curriculum takes precedence and the sport is a little bit marginalized and it's on the sideline. If you have talent, you may go ahead. If your parents have the time and the resources and the will, you may also go ahead. But for most of us, it's just something we do on the side. And as soon as we finish with school, we are finished with sport. I do hope that this is not the experience of the young women gathered here. And I think I appreciate my visit right now. From my experience of that, I moved to another girls' school. And again, I realized that the holistic development of the student, this young woman, was at the core, was the center of the vision of the school, which impacted the school's attitude towards sport.
So our school says that we wish this school to be a center of excellence, catering to the holistic development of the student. And the school understands that sport and involvement, that physical part of it, it's integral to you as a person. Because your physical development, that's a very, your intellectual development is important. And for us, we are in our national school, so spiritual development as well. And we see sports and your involvement in it as part of you becoming a complete person. And so that's one of the things that we strive for. So Holy Name, because that is the vision, it has always had a very strong tradition of sport. I see that, but a lot of it is kind of haphazard and by, again, goodwill. People are generous with their time, generous with their efforts. We have talented children who come in, and so it works out. And so we've had a series of success in many sports. And in fact, I think there are about 16 sporting disciplines that you can get into at Holy Name. Cricket, being a gentleman's sport, I think suited the mindset of the nuns who would have started the school. So there was a kind of delicacy to cricket. So girls would, they would be allowed to play. And in fact, the very first local principal of the school, because the school started by a French nun, Sister Vanilla de Lavaside, she was an avid cricketer herself. So the sister inhabits swinging a bat. And because, as well, cricket was a sport that you needed what? Not too much. A little space, 2 bats, and a ball, and you can have a match going. And you could involve your staff. It is more likely to get staff playing students in a cricket match than a football match, or a hockey match, you could say. So cricket, and of course, because of its historic relevance to us in the West Indies, really had a primacy of place into the sport, and I know more in female sport. However, due to, I guess, inadequacies in terms of space, because we are a school in the heart of what policy, we are landlocked, we have no grass to play anyway, we don't have a cricket pitch. So that would have posed an immense challenge to the growth and development of a cricket team. Nevertheless, we have seen through persistence and endurance and sheer will that in the last 10 years or so, we've seen the growth of a very consistent cricket team. That team, in fact, started from a football team. So football season is in September to November. And so we had a teacher, again, we did have a coach with one of our teachers, a male teacher, again, who was willing to train a football team, and they did very well. He got the girls together, and he was able to get parents to buy into what he was doing. So he had a very cohesive bunch of parents. They lined together. They were taking care of each other's children. And when the football season was over, he wanted to keep those girls engaged and realized, oh wait, no, I'm a cricketer, and the school does not have a cricket team. So he took his football team and said, come and continue to train in January. And that's how we developed a cricket team. Because of that strong start, and because there were parents who bought into what he was doing with the team, that team grew from strength to strength. And that team was able to emerge as North Zone champions. Now, as I say North Zone, I have to make a comment on that. Because the North Zone exists in a particular context in Trinidad and Tobago. So for us as a North Zone school, not many girls' schools take part in cricket in the North Zone. So in fact, this year, for instance, Holy Name emerged again as North Zone champions after playing 2 matches. 2 matches. Because they had nobody else to play against. You understand? So these girls trained the first season, and then you want to put the skills and the lessons that you acquired in your training into the competitive arena where you can use these skills whilst under pressure. Because there's difference. Playing in training and playing in competition are 2 different things. And so these girls train and have the opportunity to hold these skills whilst under that kind of pressure. And then they won in North Zone in 1 day. Because it had never been a tournament, think now. And so now had to come and play against another school in a quarterfinal. This school had been playing for the whole season. So the North Zone does find itself at that kind of disadvantage. And there are some schools, such as ours, where you have a wide catchment area. So the population of the school, yes, most of the children are from Port of Spain and environs, Marval, Diego Martin, Belmont, East Port of Spain, Navajo. But we have a growing population coming from the east-west corridor, stretching as far as Sangre Grande and Manzanillo and Kaiwal. We have a population coming from central Trinidad, and we do have one or two children coming from south Trinidad. So when you have this diverse population geographically converging in one space, for a school team to practice after hours, which is when practice is relegated to, not so? You know, practice during the day, practicing after hours. It means that the children who live far away are some kind of disadvantage. Because you know what the traffic is like in Trinidad and Tobago, getting into Port of Spain. If you're coming from the east, 2 hours, 1.5 if you're lucky, and getting back on an afternoon. So think about a child who wants to get up at 4 o'clock, hit the road by 5, get into school, study all day in school, and then stay after school for this discipline, practice, and then leave at 5 p.m. to head back, to take 2 hours again to get home, and then you have to sit down and do your homework, yes? And you have to study, and then you have to get up the next morning and do it all over again. So schools that have this wide geographic population find themselves at a disadvantage. In fact, that some students are marginalized at the very fact that they are far away from where their practices are located and where their school is located. In addition to that, if there's the absence of the parental support, so we are lucky in the sense that we have had a tradition of parents supporting the children. I keep seeing parents over and over again. They're there. They come after school to pick up their children after practice. So for the most part, our girls do not have to be on the streets now looking for a taxi or taxi, yes, to now head home, for the most part. So that means that the child who does not have a parent able to organize transport for her finds herself at a disadvantage as well. She will not be able to take part as she would like because now, in our present context in Trinidad and Tobago, it is unsafe. How many of you want your dear children out on the streets as darkness falls from September to December too? As darkness gets low, it's late. So that becomes a challenge in itself. I mentioned that Holy Name does not have a sporting terrain. We don't. What do? We beg. And thankfully, we have a very strong relationship with our brother school. So that's the only thing that we have to learn when it comes to girls in sport. Sometimes we have to piggyback on the success of the males in sport. And we rely on their generosity as well. So Fatima College, who have these wonderful grounds, they have been very, very kind to us and allowing us to practice 3 days a week on their grounds. We have the same coach as the Fatima team. So we have a very close relationship with our brother school. We borrow a lot of their resources, and so that has been an asset to us at Holy Name Contact. So for schools, for girls, where, again, the allocation of resources may be less because we are now emerging as a force in sport. One of the things that schools may have to look at is partnering with other schools. Develop a relationship with other schools, with the boys club as well. You already have an academy here where you have, the boys and the girls training, probably same trainers, etc. And with the same facilities. But that is not the case for most of young women here in Trinidad because you really find yourself in a privileged position. We also have, because it's a school with a very strong academic tradition, where children do well, and they expect them to do well, we want you to do well. Sometimes, some people may feel that the time and energy dedicated to sports may be detrimental to your academic performance. And if you speak to students, and I've been speaking to my athletes, how do you manage? And they say, Mrs. Hard, I'm often tired. I see that they want to swim, who come down from the stage to go on swim in the morning and get back to school, and then have to sit down in the classroom and be doing on. And you see, head under this. It happens. It happens. So what do we do as the people who are responsible for these young people in our care? Do we spend time, take the time, to teach them proper time management skills? Do we spend time to go through with them? What is your daily routine? How can you carve out more time for rest? Are you eating properly? This year we had a sports day, and for the first time in my life, I have never seen children collapse before the march past. Before they started the march, back, they were down the ground. the impact of 2 years of online schooling, we are still feeling the impact of that. I am seeing that the average child, physically, she's more sedentary, and I say she because I'm in good grades, yeah? And she may be less fit than girls her age a few years or pre-COVID. We are seeing it. We have to keep asking ourselves, what are we seeing it, but what are you doing? And sometimes we have to ask ourselves, what can we do? So the young person now has a greater challenge to make sure that you are more active than your lifestyle may, encourage you. That you begin to cut down the time you spend taking the finger and exercising the finger and moving the entire body. So being involved in a sport, being involved in cricket, provides an organized opportunity for that kind of physical movement and activity that is so lacking for most of our children. And so it is incumbent upon us, the decision makers, the educators, the planners, the trainers, to afford them more and more opportunities to just move. And far too often, sport in Trinidad and Tobago is for children who have initially showing some skill. And we focus on those are the ones who go ahead. But what about the others who just, I want to be involved, and I may never make a national team. I may never do that. But is there anything to help me to go from point A to point B? That I may throw a ball and may never reach the wicket. I started off like that. I bowled it. The batsman waited. Ball never reached. Yes? Can I get from the point where that ball can reach that person? I looked at the volleyball team in school watching them practice, and when they started, I said, oh my God, nobody could hit the ball over the net. But after some months, I began to see more and more being able to, to at least get the ball over the net. Little growth markers like that. What do we have in place to celebrate those markers that would encourage our athletes? And all of them are athletes. Whether they are actually team competing or they're training and they're just learning and developing a skill, our attitude hasn't changed towards that. I asked one of my athletes, I said, so do you see yourself continuing in sports when you finish school? Because for most of our girls, that's it, as I said before. You play the sport in school, and if you're lucky, you go up into university, you can do this, and that's the end of it. What can you envision yourself in that? She said, well, miss, there are opportunities. If I can find the opportunities, and if I don't get sidelined by other things, my family, becoming a mother. So I started by saying the extracurricular as a sideline. I think for us, for young athletes, it's to understand that it's not about sideline, that this is main activity that can integrate all of these skills that I'm learning. Look how beautifully Dr. Thomas is able to integrate her physics and her science into sport. It's a challenge for us, for young people to understand that all the things that you learn in class, you don't learn them in silos, not in vacuums, but that we have to bring them all together for your own enrichment and for the enrichment of the societies in which we live. So, for parents, one of our students said to me that her time spent on the cricket field has enhanced her critical thinking skills, because she has to be able to make decisions very quickly on the field. That's a challenge for her. But doing that has helped her, even the way she thinks through things, sitting down in an exam room. The discipline of organizing yourself, of having to pack your bag with your sports clothes, the equipment, etc., make sure you get to school on time. Getting yourself organized translates into a disciplined worldview and a disciplined way of yourself and organizing yourself, and it is seen in their performance. Looking at the performance of all of the athletes throughout the school, we have seen that for the most part, all of these girls, probably with one or two exceptions, and those exceptions they have other factors, variables, and cause accounting for their poor performance. But all of our girls do very, very well. If I were to look at all the athletes throughout sports, over 85% of them come back into Form 6 and go on to tertiary level education. Only has scholarship winners every year, and those scholarship winners, academic national scholarship winners, every single one of them have participated in a sport throughout their career at Dominican. So we are able to see and to attest to the fact that women being involved in sports, it is an enhancement to their academic, their intellectual development, and to their professional lives. And so one of the students spoke about leadership. That being involved in a sport, it taught her, it allowed her to develop relationships with girls who were older than she was, because you have the training together. Learn from them, to model herself on their successes, and of course, when she had to take a position as vice chancellor and later on captain, it set her in a good place to be prefect and head girl at the school. So even looking through the school leadership as well, the girls were chosen to be prefects, girls were chosen to be captains, house captains, and head girls, etc. Every single one of them has been involved in sport. So for those of us who are involved in sports, we have a mission to get that message out. Look at my child. She is healthy and she is happy. Your child can be healthy and happy too. Giving the time and the hours to sport, the extra gas money to drive up and down, the networking with parents who pick it up. Yes, you can pick up my child. That kind of organization, as small as it may seem, goes a very, very long way towards success of the individual athlete, and of course to all the successes that we hope to achieve as a nation and as a region. And of course, we know that more and more opportunities are opening up for them to study locally, regionally, and further afield due to their involvement in sports. And so it's an exciting time. We exist in an exciting time of possibilities. And we always hear from me that the Chinese character for challenge is the same character for opportunity. And so whatever challenges we face with regards to time and energy, safety, facility, resources, those are challenges that face everybody in every class, not just sports, not just cricket. But simply wherever there is a will, an institutional will, an organizational will, or will of people who come together to accomplish something as I am seeing here already, and I'm so impressed by it. The opportunities will open up and the triumphs will come. So ladies, I wish you all the best in your future. But yes, I look forward to you seeing your names and seeing you as well as productive citizens and productive members of our society. Thank you.
Thank you there, Principal Khan, for sharing her insightful and inspiring experiences. You will find, those of you who are in school, you will think you would want to have her as your principal. Yes. So give her another round of applause for her. Very visionary approach there to unlocking the potential of you young athletes and fostering the growth through opportunity and support. So I hope all the adults who are here, you understand now. You might have heard from your girls or some of these girls that you coach. But I couldn't have done it better myself. Thank you again, Mrs. Zetkan. So as we move on, our final segment, I know some of us are hungry, so for the final panelist, we'll save the guest for last. Right, some of you know her. So the professional cricketer is the topic, and who other more fitting and more appropriate than Ms. Stephanie Power to lead us through this part. And I'll tell you a little bit about her before she takes the lecture. Ms. Stephanie Power is an iconic figure in cricket and education who has combined over 40 years of teaching experience with an unparalleled contribution to the sport. A former captain and wicketkeeper for both the West Indies and Trinidad and Tobago women's cricket teams, she led with distinction, earning respect on and off the field. Transitioning into coaching, Stephanie became a certified Level 2 coach and an ECB tutor assessor, sharing her expertise to develop generations of players. Her role as an assistant coach for the West Indies women's team further cemented her legacy in advancing women's cricket across the region. Currently, she continues to shape the future of the sport by coaching the Trinidad and Tobago under-19 women, the under-16 girls training squad, and the University of the West Indies women's cricket team. Among her many accolades, Ms. Power has been honored with the Hummingbird Medal Silver in 2017, reflecting her unwavering dedication to cricket and her country. Acknowledged as one of the sport's greats, she has been inducted into both the Cricket Hall of Fame, Connecticut, USA, in 2014, and the First Citizens Sports Foundation Hall of Fame, 2015, affirming her extraordinary contributions to the game and its development. This evening, we invite her to the podium to share her insights on the professional cricketer. Let us warmly welcome her. Directors of the KRCA, my fellow panelists, especially invited guests, cricketers, parents, teachers, coaches, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I would also like to thank Mr. Kumar Rampat for having me here today. Kumar, thank you for the 4 years. I would like to single some people in the audience. Because Samara and Brianna, everybody else from the West Indies on the 19th year. Okay, Samara and Brianna, stand and be recognized. Captain of the West Indies on the 19th, and Brianna. From the secondary schools, girls cricket.
small body of determined spirits, fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission, can alter the course of history. I can attest to that because the pioneers of women's cricket that Mr. Abasadi spoke about were that small body of which Gandhi spoke about. Mr. Abasadi spoke about when cricket was first played. Who can remember the date? The year? 1745. How many years ago was that? And sweetie for the first, look at that. Remember all my mathematics people, boy? When the sports people are in here? 280. Who said it? I'll give you a okay, right. So one of my other here is some people in women's cricket is it? Yes, 280 years ago, and he spoke about the maidens in the little villages in England. And you know what they used to play for them? Lace gloves, barrels of beer. I thought you saw that in the recent book. That's far cry from play, what the women played for. I would base my speech more on the West Indian women when I was playing. We had to go to the World Cup. This is teacher. We had to go to the World Cup in 2005. In order for us to go there, we had to get funds. We didn't know how people get in there. We had no funds because we were not under the CWI as these lucky cricketers every day. And these lucky cricketers we had our West Indies Women's Cricket Federation. And we struggled. We had to go to the Oval to get money to sell raffle tickets. We had to beg people for individual sponsorship. These women these days are so lucky. We stayed when we went to the World Cup in England. We swore we would have beaten everybody because we came together 2 weeks before we traveled. 2 weeks. And we had to go and say, oh, we were going to be beating everybody. We went over there and we were surprised because these other countries, England, New Zealand, they used to be playing against each other. They had money. So they would travel and play against each other. We were just in West Indies, the St. Lucia and the Barbados over there, the Jamaicans, Trinidad, Tobago, you know the geography. So we can get together often. So just 2 weeks before we travel, that is when we used to have a camp. When you know what we used to have, we never used to, of the others. Now, so before we were officially embraced under the CWI in 2009, so let me read from the notes. Because of lack of funding, we only came together as a team 2 weeks before a major tournament to have a camp and try to bond as a team. Needless to say, we didn't do well. In the 1993 World Cup, yes, I was there, we placed 6 out of 8. 1997 World Cup in India, we placed 9th out of 11. In the 2005 World Cup, I was the captain. We had our best showing at that time. We were 5th out of 8. Compared to nowadays, where the CWI has the women at many camps. Every time I ask for Brittany, she out in the country. She in some camp, Samara, in some camp, Amrita, Brianna, some camp, always out of the country during the year. There's no worry about travel, tours. There are tours coming into the West Indies. They go abroad. They are paid to play. Paid to play. I remember we went to Pakistan, West Indies women's cricket team. So the money was good, the exchange, right? Because they didn't give us money, eh? That was our own money. And we saw all these cheap things in Pakistan, and we were buying and buying and buying. And when we reached the airport, we were overweight. We thinking management will do that. Management said no. Your shop, your pay. We had to pay out of pocket to pay for our thing. Brittany, you pay for everything for your now, eh? Everything. We stayed in a cold stadium in India. Brittany, 5-star hotels, right? 10 hours. 5-star hotels, a cold, dark stadium. And with the increased popularity of women's cricket worldwide, more sponsors are coming on board. So many more cricket tournaments are taking place. CPL, WIPL, 300. I have 3 teams in the CPL, right? I think even it's this year, last year, but not. So you will have to take it back. Samara, challenge. We had 3 players in this year's edition of WIPL. Do you know the players? 3 of them. Oh, you know what women's cricket or what? Deandra, Haley, Shadell Henry. Good. And I think only Haley was in the hundreds. This year, last year. Deandra was there last year. She was this year or you are in this year? Right. And listen, contracts and all here. They getting contracts. We had to work. When we were playing, we working. We gonna see about our family. We training cricket. Now they getting contracts. They ain't about to go and work, you know. The West Indies board have multi-year contracts to 3 players. Shimin Campbell from Guyana, Haley Matthews, and Stephanie Taylor. Brittany afraid I call your name. People know how much money they got in. They have 1-year international contracts to 12 1-year international contracts. I don't want to tell you all the people how much money they get in. So we have like Anya Allen Cornell from Barbados, Deandra Fletcher from Grenada, Sharon Fraser from Guyana, Chanel Henry, just called out from Jamaica, Taylor James from St. Lucia, Canada, Minister from Guyana, Shipping Nation, our own Ram Harak, and Rashada Williams. They are getting 1-year international contracts. Then we have West Indies academy contracts awarded to Glasgow, 3 people. Glasgow from St. Vincent Grenadines, from Guyana and Gatra from Guyana. I think Griman from Guyana too will get the same. And then they awarded 40 people for another year contract. 3 from Barbados, 3 from Guyana, 3 from Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago. And Leeward Islands has 2, Leeward Islands has 3. These girls could just concentrate on their cricket and don't worry about where their money is coming from to travel. So we still struggle here in Trinidad, although the cricket has really improved. The cricket has really improved that from when cricket started, when the red was really started to develop. The first women's T20 was in 2004. There were about 18 or so. Now we have 69 teams, 69 countries playing women's cricket. Can you imagine? 69 countries playing women's cricket now. We're still struggling here in Trinidad and Tobago, especially in the cricket season. The women, because the men take first preference for the grounds. You might only get 1 umpire. But we press on so that the legacy which the early female cricketers started can be continued. I am positive 90% of you have never heard the names of the players in the first women's cricket team. Did you follow that? You just said some of them were there. Yeah, first West Indies women played. Right. So you can't name all the captains of the previous West Indies women's team. Brittany, you said it's some captain. Martha. Stephanie who? I think Stephanie. Any other captain? Gustavo Fabry, Pastor called another one. Louise Brown, Mrs. Brown's sister. After me, before me was Mrs. Brown. After me was Nadine. She comes in the shop. And then Marissa took over from Lady. After Marissa was Stephanie. And then Katie Norman. Right. So I'll give you something. So you all know something. Now I'm not blaming you, but the powers that they don't keep these women's name alive. Those women who played in the West Indies team, who paved the way for those who are there now. My hope is that one day CWI will honor the women of yesterday, who toiled long and hard without any tangible reward to ensure that our West Indies women's cricket team could now compete and finish in the top 4 of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Power, for sharing, some of the challenges that female cricketers, professionals faced. Some of us weren't even aware of, what happened. And, we are grateful to you for sharing those experiences with these young ladies. So at this point, I hope that you have your questions ready. If anybody would like to come and sing in the interlude, we welcome that. I know we have a few able-bodied potential coaches here, so if anybody would want to get up, and I'll invite you to come to the front, to get everybody to stretch a little bit, get the blood circulating a little bit before those questions and answers. So, Ms. Power,
You want to volunteer someone to come up and do a little breathing exercise with the audience? Yeah, so she will, defining what professionals can do. You're breaking barriers here, So that's what women are accustomed to doing. Brittany, you all put your hands together for. So, Brittany, feel free to take the mic. Good night, everyone. I'm not too sure why I'm in front when you have a doctor who specializes in biomechanics and movement. It's the best person. But outside of the warm-up, I'll say to Mr. Rampart and son, it's a great honor to be here and see the foundation you are putting in place for women's cricket. Women's cricket don't have a foundation. Yeah, we go there and we play cricket, we win, and that's about it. There's no real breeding ground. Yes, we have the under 16 and the under 19, but after the senior team, what next? How much former players in Trinidad and Tobago you see involved in women's cricket still, outside of Miss Power, Miss Anne Brown? My intention to get into coaching is because when I started, it didn't have enough coaches who was interested in women's cricket. Plain and simple, nobody coming to coach women's cricket for $500 a week, right? And because of that, a lot of young players got left behind because there was no individual coaches to come forward and say, okay, I will sacrifice my time and come and coach you. Now, Mr. Rampart and his son have an academy where a lot of these young ladies here have the opportunity to come and try to develop their skills. And now we see our cricket West Indies is going to start on the 16th tournament. And people might say, well, probably had that all the time. No, we only had on the 19th that the Cricket Association used to run for the last, I would say, 10 years. And then Cricket West Indies came on board and started being one of the main sponsors. But outside of under 19 and senior, if you compare to the men, under 13, under 15, under 17, under 19, senior, under 23, and I'm sure they'll find something else to add on. Some age group will look to add on. So it's good to see so much people here today, and I hope the conversation don't stop here. And that's the issue. We are not having the conversation. We are not stepping up. We are not saying, okay, what more? As cricketers coming forward and say, what more do we need? Right? Sponsors, investors coming and say, how can we help? We know this thing is a business thing. People want to see the money go somewhere because they want to bring back something to them. But sometimes it's good to invest in, and I believe one of the reasons Mr. Rampart invested in cricket is not to look for an income. It's a passion he had, and his sons grew up in that passion, and they are continuing. So, to the youngsters who are now coming up in the cricket, don't ever forget the passion. Yes, the money is there, but cricket is played with passion. So, yeah, that's my warm-up. Thank you. Thank you, Brittany. I really thought you would get them off the feet, and show us what coaching skills they have here, to get them agile, because, we have to show that they are critical thinkers and they could think on the feet, because, after all these panelists here, we want them to jam them with some questions. All right, so thank you again there, Brittany, and we do wish you all the best in the future, all right, as you continue on your journey. All right, so now it's your turn to be doing the speaking. And I am sure you have questions. You always do. Alright, so we have Mr. Riza Abathali, we have Ms. Power, we have Ms. Lizette Khan, we have Dr. Thomas, and I saw how you were gripping the edges of your seats a while ago, and I saw eyebrows raising. So now let's get the lips moving. So, to take us through this part, we have our moderator, Ms. Sherry Ann Legal, who would, guide you through this part of the what we call the question and answer segment. Good? Mr. Pierre, you know these ladies, like they don't want to show you how they can break the barriers. So I understand, Alka Bird just whispered to me that you are very good at warm-up exercises. So Mr. Pierre, you know, come on, show them down. They started to say all kind of things about the men just now. You know, Brittany say, it have this and it have that. So show her now. So I would like to invite you to come up, please, sir. And please do a 1-minute warm-up thing with them. Alright, so put your hands together for Mr. Pierre, who is the head of the University of the Southern Caribbean campus. And please.
Alright, good. So we stand. Everyone, stand. And then you stretch your arms in the air. My Alright, stretch up, reach up to the sky. Reach up on your toes. Come down. Go on the side. And you take a deep breath in. You just keep cycling. You get up. And you reach again. And you exhale. You come down. You heel on one side. Gently, not too much. Then you go on the other side. And then you twist to one side. And then you twist to the other side. And then you take a deep breath in. And you exhale. One more time. In. And you exhale. And 60 seconds is up.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre. How did that feel? Alright, so I'm sure you're feeling a little better. Alright, refreshed. So now we are ready for the panel and you're going to launch into them. So they, you know, they hear, you know, and we have all these questions about the biomechanics and all of that. So I'll hand you over to them and we hear from you.
Okay, wonderful. How about we ask the questions to the panelists in the order that they presented? So, Mr. Abbas Ali, I'm going to give one question to everyone, and then I'll ask the audience if you have any questions. And then we'll ask you one more round of questions again. Then we'll go back to the audience, and then we'll finish this segment. So I'm putting all the panelists on alert. We have a question for each of you based on what you presented. Mr. Abbas Ali, can you identify, based on what you shared with the audience tonight and based on the knowledge that you have, can you tell us this evening what would be 3 notable women's firsts for young women cricketers that they should be knowledgeable about in their experience? 3 women's firsts that they should know as part of their experience.
Testing. What should they know as emerging cricketers, women? First of all, they should know who they are and what is their purpose. What is their motivation? What they want to achieve. And I think that's the first one, but I think I just want to go a little bit on it. They have to have that self-image about themselves, improving themselves, and working towards their goals and aspirations, and sacrificing. With all the machinery and equipment and technology we have, you've got to first set your foundation. I hope I can ask, after the panelists go through your questions, I have a question for Ms. Samara Ramnath. I hope I can ask it later. The second one, continuous learning. I think that is important. Learning, and it goes for all sport actually. Learning from your mistakes, sharing your experiences with others. I think that goes not only for sport, but let me just mention, but for your academics as well. And Principal Khan talked about that balance between sport and academics. And the third, I would advise spirituality. I don't figure, and I don't want to extricate your spirituality. I mean, we are a multiracial country, fine, and you have we have our God and our semblance of God, but that is very important. Because without God in your life, and all our lives actually here, we have no direction. So that's my 3 aspects.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas, you told us quite a little bit about the science that goes along with sporting. You talked about peak height velocity. When would you recommend, based on your knowledge, would be an ideal time for young persons, even young females, to start getting involved in sport?
Okay. So the question is, when would I recommend females to get involved in sport? Honestly, as soon as you could walk and stand on your 2 feet without falling. No, really, because there are so many benefits to exercise in general. Sports is a form of exercise that as soon as you can get involved, I would recommend it. I didn't go into details on all the benefits of exercise, but besides it having or leading to physical gains in muscle and bone strength and bone density, there are so many mental benefits to exercise as well that I feel isn't talked about a lot. But research has shown that there's, in some cases with certain clinical mental health conditions, exercise is as effective as medicine in managing the symptoms of certain mental health disorders. And so the fact that we have hard evidence to show that underscores the importance of getting involved in some form of exercise, and again, sport being a form of organized exercise. So as early as they can. The only thing I would say is that I think what I'm also hearing behind the question is the concern of some parents that a child might be too young to get involved in sport because maybe it's too harsh on their body. That's where the coaches would have to take into consideration the maturity of the child and know what they can and can't handle. With respect to resistance training or weight training, hold off on that until after puberty. But other than that, there is no reason for a child not to participate in sport unless they have a medical condition that contraindicates that.
Thank you. Principal Khan, you spoke a bit about goodwill and how goodwill has contributed to the development of sports, particularly in your experience and particularly through school. Can you tell us a little bit more about why goodwill is important, either through parents, through teachers who may have ability and skills, and to what extent does that play a role in continuing to keep sport moving forward within the school system?
In the Christian tradition, there's the story of the 5 loaves and 2 fish, where Jesus used whatever little was given, and he was able to feed the multitudes. Goodwill is like that. It grows exponentially. So we've seen that in the absence of the money and the resources and the fancy facilities, that people can accomplish great things because they want to do something good. And whatever little expertise you may have, or recognized talent at the time that you may have, once you're able to offer it, and once you're able to be committed, and you're able to be consistent, we see the impact of that in young people. You may have the most talented group of young people, but if they don't have committed and reliable adults to guide them, that talent may never, be developed. and a lot of the goals may never be realized. And so it is that commitment that it's tied up. I may not see a direct reward for what I am doing in terms of, something that is tangible or so. But certainly, if we're able to see the bigger picture, those rewards are far greater. And if people can get beyond measuring what is in it for me, I think we would be far further ahead in terms of what we can accomplish in sports and in fact in anything. So that's where goodwill on the part of the adults, teachers, the parents, the trainers, but also as well the athletes. That you extend that to those around you. That it's not just about me and how I can develop, but we talk about sportsmanship and sportswomanship. That really is about being outside of yourself. So one of the things about sports as well, and cricket is a team sport, that you learn to be team players. And that is also one of the values of I guess, you see, recognized 21st century education, and as well in terms of employment and what they're looking for, people who are able to work as part of a team. So the goodwill, it extends beyond the game, and so all of us can be in a much better place if we really are able to, to give what we can without counting the cost.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Powers, winning as an athlete, participating in games and official games. To what extent that is very important to an athlete's development, continued development, and what would you recommend is the number of games or the number of opportunities? Because you talked about opportunities for athletes, either winning or just participating on an official level. How important is that to the continuance of persons getting involved or participating in the game and sustaining that?
Could you repeat, please?
Certainly. Winning and participating in official games. How important is that across the career of individuals, and how does that attract individuals to come into the sport?
Okay, I think Dr. Thomas spoke about the outcome. Yeah, instead of the process, women process, and the boys think about the outcome. So I think you need to think about the process rather than winning the game. Develop themselves, develop their talents, from point A to point B, what they need to do, and just develop it. And don't study about the outcome. If it is to be, it will be.
Very interesting. But how do you reconcile that? I did follow that up this bonus. How do you reconcile that with part of the emotional development? Dr. Thomas mentioned that about participating and not always necessarily winning, but the opportunity to develop. I mean, how important is that for the psyche for individuals coming into the sport?
Because it gives you a sense of accomplishment. You see, okay, Kadai is 10 years old. If you see Kadai bowl, beautiful. She's kind of young now. You might be put her on a team, but next year, Kadai would have developed more. So I think it's the development. You look at the development and how far you can reach. When I started, I wasn't thinking about I want to play for the national team or the West Indies team. I just love cricket, and I wanted to be the best that I can be. And in being the best that I can be, it just automatically, I became a member of the Trinidad team in West Indies team. So the outcome, it will come. But develop your talent, develop yourself, develop your mind, and everything will work smoothly.
Well, thank you. So I'll look at my audience. Do we have any questions from anyone? To these esteemed persons on this panel this evening. Do you have anything you want to ask them publicly? Now, I know sometimes persons are not always interested in asking publicly. They may be willing to ask you privately after, which is fine too. We would welcome that. But if you do have a burning question and you would like to ask it publicly, we will take it now.
Hi, Ms. Khan. I have a question. You spoke about your school not having any grass at all, yet you won about 4 competitions in a row. Any tricks of the trade to share with some of the others there?
As I said, networking, find partnerships, I would say. Find people who have what you need and who are able to support you. Again, a bit of, tenacity. You don't give up, you persevere. You keep trying to find different avenues. Seek them out, find them. And of course, commitment. Again, people who are committed to growth, to being better, and I guess that consistency leads to results. So I guess the same commitment that parents may have had to making sure their children had lessons first year, they did well, they passed for a good school or so, and that they're doing well throughout their school life, if they're able to put that towards a sporting discipline, you see the results. In the same way that you see the results in the ones and the whatever class degrees you'll get later on, you see the impact of it in sport. So again, partner with people, find the right people who are able to help you and to support you. Do not give up in your efforts. I mean, if one door shuts, go and find another one. We pray very hard as well. I know that's a big part of it as well. And I think God probably fed up hearing us, but we beg a lot. And yes, the same discipline and commitment and consistency that you want and you would apply to your exams, the preparation for exams, you apply it to everything and to the sports. And I think that, yeah, that's why in spite of, yes, no grass, no pitch, we're still able to, emerge as winners, even on the national stage. I mean, we haven't yet won the title. I believe it will come because we have that goal in mind, and we have children who are persistent. And even though some of the others may have graduated and gone without having achieved the title, they have passed on that hunger for it to the others. So it's a consistent desire on our part that I know will be fulfilled, and a hunger that will be satisfied in the near future.
And I have another question based on something that came up, but anybody from the panel or maybe even the audience, as I know SSC others say. The cricket board used to allow youth players to represent his zone either where they live or where they went to school. And I believe that has changed over the past few years. I put it out to the panel, but I also put it out to people in the audience as well. Is that something that we can reconsider? Because if Ms. Khan's students are coming from almost Gandhi to Port of Spain, it might be pragmatic that the zone of North Zone allows them to play in North Zone rather than trying to get back to sessions in Gandhi. Any thoughts on that to the panel or to the audience? Oh, Ms. Khan, would that be beneficial?
Yes, anything that allows a child contact with the sport and the opportunity to practice and to improve or to hone her skill. Anything that facilitates that, I think we always have to think of the interest of the student, the child, the athlete. And yes, we may want to have all of our talented students playing in the name of the school. But you have to look beyond what is that as a title for the school. But if it's an opportunity for a child who otherwise would not be able to play and represent you, and she can represent somebody else, why not? I think the league will now have to work out the legalities of all of these things, because I mean there are things that allow children to play for other schools. So if you're not your school doesn't have a team, you can play, you can represent another school. So there is that allowance in a sense, again in the interest of the student athlete. So yeah, that's something that may be considered.
All right. Yes, Mr. Pierre?
As you spoke about students participating in sports and the great performance and so on, right? Let's say we have students who are doing well in sports, not doing good at their courses. Would you recommend that their system is to assist these students
I must confess, there isn't a concretized system to assist athletes in that regard. I think for us as a school, it's a very organic thing that you deal with each individual case. And because we're 685 children, girls, and I think we have always had a very familial kind of environment in the school. So there's always a teacher with the finger on a child, and there's somebody who can try to, to walk with that child and offer some kind of pastoral support. So that, to some extent, there is that support, there is that vigilance in terms of the children, not because they are athletes, but generally for all of our students. Of course, unfortunately, there are some students who may fall through the cracks. Unfortunately, as I said before, there is no system of support there for athletes that, we take into account, the challenges that they face. I'll give an example. So we just have mock exams finishing in school. This is the term for mock exams, and next term when they come back out, first week of school, both CSEC and Cape Breton exams are going to start. So children were writing the mock exams while they were playing. They had to leave school for cricket, for different things. There were children that represent children outside in hockey. These children would have had challenges in terms of their study time and of course the exam time. So the school does have a policy. If you are representing the school or you're representing nationally, you have to make the concession for them to sit their exam when they come back. However, you're looking at teachers who have to meet deadlines in terms of giving them marks. So when a child comes back and she flies back into Trinidad, let's say Monday, or she plays a match today, tomorrow she may have 2 exams to write where the others have 1 because she's catching up. So there is that kind of disadvantage the athlete is placed in quite naturally. Even though it's a kind of concession to say, well, you may compromise the integrity of your exam by having it extended, the same exam extended over a longer period of time. But the concessions that within the rhythm of a school that you can afford to an athlete, they are limited. So children repeating exams, in some schools they do, an athlete is allowing them to repeat. Our school, because of the competitive nature of class sizes, etc. You compete at the end of Form 3 to get for science class or business class because everybody wants to do it. We may not have the luxury of affording a child, time to repeat because her year group, the next year group will be bigger, and you may not have time to put her in a class. So yes, an athlete who is struggling academically can find herself at a greater disadvantage had she not been involved in the sport. But those instances are very rare that I have seen. And as I said before, the athletes that we have seen struggle academically, when you look at it, there were other factors, real problems at home or so, or maybe some kind of learning disability that would have accounted for poor performance. What we see more of is that our girls, the athletes, are performing better, and I think usually the involvement in sport is an enhancement to their academic performance. A challenge, yes, as they admit. They say it's hard. We out of school, I miss a lab. Class is doing it, I have to come back. If the teacher is not prepared to set that lab up at lunchtime or something like that for me, I am at a disadvantage. I may be, recently had other people to complete my SEAs and things like that. So it really has to be the mindset of the institution to say that you will allow these students these concessions. If a child is doing so and so, we have to make time for her to sit the exam, do over the lab. A teacher, okay, she may miss something, she may not be able to hand up an assignment, things like that. So you grant a concession, a more flexible deadline and things like that. But that is, again, at the discretion of the teachers and the institution. So it really is not, as I said, a system that is established in our school, and I don't know if any school for that matter.
Understood. Thank you. Can I see a hand to the back? Yes.
Yes, so afternoon everyone. So 2 things from me. I just want to expand on something that Kieran just said. I think I'm going to yeah, so the point that our good principal made there about, a school that doesn't have a cricket team could be allowed to play on another school. I think that's a wonderful idea. And I know my friend here from the secondary school is, could consider something like that. What it also prevents too is, and you see it happening a lot at the secondary school level, where schools are actually poaching players, right? And it gets so bad that I experienced something last year where a school that my son attended to was supposed to play a game, I think it was an under 16 game, and the other school refused to play simply because the school that they were going to play against had about 9 national players, So that point that you raised about, especially at the primary school level, where you have children going to a school who doesn't have a team, that be allowed to play on another school, that can help alleviate this poaching problem that we have. That's one. The other thing to I kind of missed my point there, but so that's that's a scenario I see happening, and somehow we have to get a hold on it so that we could have equality across the board, so that more schools would be inclined to take part in the competition. Yeah, because when you have one school or a couple of schools that dominating, the other schools and the other children are kind of intimidated into really expressing themselves, and even the teachers and the principal, they all have to invest in this as well. So, at the end of the day, you have to have a line where we can alleviate that problem. The other thing is, my other point is, I was really impressed by the goodly doctor on your presentation, I have a son studying sports and kinetics in UWI, and I really wish I could get him to talk to you, right? So the thing is, cricket has evolved from just physical ability and talent. As you said, it has become a science. I don't know which one of the panel members, maybe the captain, do we have in the West Indies a facility where we can actually analyze our players so that we can optimize on their skills? Because, you're seeing it all over the world, Australia, India, people are studying their players. We are not at the best level right now, sad to say, but what are we doing to get to that point where we can actually study our players? We have very talented players in the West Indies. There may be little areas that they could improve, but are we introducing the science and the technology into the cricket West Indies? Yeah.
Ms. Powers, do you want to answer that question? I don't know.
Good evening, everyone.
1 second before you ask the question. Did you want to answer, Ms. Powers, in terms of identifying talent? Yes, you can go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Sandy. So my question is really in the young ladies, I've been around watching them play cricket. They're very emotional. They love the game, right? And sometimes they have a hard time with accepting loss, right? How do you accept it at your level, and what advice you'll give them to continue going on when they lose a game? They win 10 but they lose 1. It's a hard thing to accept. So what words of encouragement you'll give them to continue, fighting after they lose a game that they were so passionate about? Thank you.
Rachel, you want to answer that? Okay, what do we do? We just talk to them. That's the most we can do, especially if they are very young. And as doctor said, they are very emotional. So you just have to talk to them and tell them that next year we'll be better, we'll get them next time, or just keep just keep working. Just keep working. The better you get, we'll be able to compete. I don't coach. Well, I have the academy now, and we have not been playing games. But I am coach of UE Women, and when we do lose a game, Rachel is watching me. Sometimes she cries, but you know, I tell them we'll do better next time. We beat ourselves. If we analyze the game and realize we were the ones who did not compete as we should, who didn't do what we should have done, then I tell them, look, you beat yourself, you know, they didn't beat us. So the next time you have to be better prepared and know what you have to do better. And most of the time, because they are about 20, 21, they will be able to internalize it. I hope I don't get it with these girls. So we have to prepare them to be mentally tough. Maybe that will be part of our training, mindfulness and being mentally tough. Being part of our training.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let me, I want to really, with your permission, Ms. Madam Moderator, you see this mentally tough thing? You see this mental strength? This has to be indoctrinated from early age, very early age. Because I am saying, not with 100% accuracy, but West Indies team, I'm not saying women, maybe men team, lack that mental toughness. What do you mean by that? Because we don't bat long, for instance. We can't bat 4 days, we could bat 4 overs. Let me give you a perfect example of Brian Lara. When you talk about mentally tough, let me just share a few examples. How he got mentally tough. At the age of 8, he was already playing with 16-year-olds. So his competition mind and level was at a different horizon. Lara used to, as I read, how he pierced the field. He took a broomstick and a marble and pierced the field with pots and plants around, and where the pot is here, and he will get the space between the pots. And when you saw Lara score his first 100, which was a double 100 at Sydney in January of 1993, his piercing of that field was unbelievable. He set his mind already to know what to do. How he visualized, doctor. That's what I want. He visualized what he was going to do. And and I'll end here. A classic example is that brilliant 153 not out against Australia, Barbados 1999. West Indies chasing 300 plus. And Lara with his friend, I think I can't remember the man, the guy who called him. Lara set out in his head how he's going to score this 311. 153 not out against Australia. Described as the second best ever 100 by wisdom in the history of Test cricket. And Test cricket has been established or started back in 1877. Thank you.
I have 3 questions, if I can remember, all 2 to Dr. Thomas and 1 to Ms. Khan. Dr. Thomas, we spoke about staying away from weight training after kids, after right. But for example, Tamara, Brianna, and Rita, they started young. They started 14, 15, it's correct, right? So they are in a team setup, senior team setup, and most likely they will be introduced to strength training. What is your advice to coaches or to
see teachers here, how do you manage that issue? Because at that point in time, that they now getting the menstruate or they not, for me, how I look at it, because a lot of athletes don't understand the body. They don't understand the body. And as young women who go through a lot more than the young guys, I think it's important for our young women to understand their body. So any advice on that in terms of that injury where they will have to do strength training?
Yes, if you are in a setting where your coach is forcing you, for lack of a better word, to do strength training, in those cases, I know that sometimes, depending on if you like your coach or not, I guess, you might feel hesitant to speak up for yourself, but you know your body best, right? So if it is the case that you feel like it's just too hard or strenuous, I would encourage you to speak up and advocate for yourself and say that the load is too heavy. I just want to say as well that although my recommendation is to probably hold off on the weight training until they are done with the growth spurt period, it's not to say that they can't do it. As coaches, you just need to go lighter on the intensity and load. And honestly, I would start with body weight. You can still experience strength gains with body weight, right? And my personal philosophy is actually to master body weight before you add external weight, especially if you don't have any physical limitation that doesn't allow you to move your body freely, right? That would, a case like that would be somebody who's morbidly obese, right? They won't be able to do full body weight exercises. And even in those cases, there are a lot of modifications that you could use for those individuals to still get them to exercise. So yeah, in the case of where you do have to do strength training, yeah, coaches please, like they are still young. You don't want to fall into the era of overtraining, right? Overtraining leads to decreases in performance, and it will take a longer time for the damage to heal, right? So again, girls, you know what your body could take and can take. When you're getting to that breaking point, please speak up. And yeah, coaches, just take it. There's a saying that we say in exercise science, like go low and slow. So slow on the intensity, or low on the intensity, and slow in the progression, like how much you keep increasing that load. So that's what I'm talking about.
You know, the second part of that question that you already answered was how important for the young ladies to understand their body, but you already touched on that. So Ms. Khan, you spoke about being a student athlete and the fact that, you know, when students go out to national duties, they miss assignments and stuff like that. What, as a principal, what do you put in place for students like this? Because we spoke about some teachers probably, if they're in a good mood, might give the students the exam again, or I know some teachers, okay, well, you're going to play cricket, football, tennis, wherever, you miss my class, you miss my class. It have no, okay, well, it have makeup class or stuff like that. Now, some parents, if they hear that, will think about, okay, now, because my girl child is an athlete, she's now missing out on her academic, and start to probably ask their daughter to, okay, now you have to ease up on the cricket or the football, because as you spoke earlier on, the grades are dropping. As a principal, in your school, have you implemented anything to help student athletes? Because I know when I was going to school, it was really, really difficult to balance both.
I think it's a twofold kind of approach that we need. So one, it has to be the policy of the school. What is your policy with regards to sport? I was saying to Dr. Thomas earlier on, we are now in fact drafting an official policy with sport. But in terms of the school's examination policy, thankfully, that has been written from a long time ago and has been established that, again, school duty, national duty, you have to allow the opportunity for them to do whatever it is, the exam, etc. So if it's written, I think you'd have greater compliance to be part of the teachers, etc. Because this is the policy of the school and this is the expectation of it. So that from the school side there's that, and of course, it will have to be the responsibility of the administration, like myself. So again, sometimes to remind people. So people have to know Because you can't take for granted that you just know who's here, etc. So you have to, that part of your, so there's policy and there's the actual practice, what you do within the school. So the exams that people have, you know, all the teachers know, these children are out, these are the dates they are out, these are the things they'll miss, which takes quite a bit of coordination to do. So that's communication, but and the practice of doing it and informing people, that's, you know, from our side. And of course the human touch. Miss, I know you're busy, but can you make sure that, you know, you set aside some time to do this over with these children, etc. So that's, I find myself doing that as well. That's from our side. But the athletes and the parents, they also have to take responsibility. You cannot believe that you're entitled to anything. So you have to understand that, yes, I may be serving, I'm doing something, but there's an added responsibility on my part to ensure that by the hook or the crook, I keep it up. And that, you know, my record is almost impeccable in the sense that nobody has anything else to hold against me. So a teacher cannot say, she missed my class because she wasn't cricket whatsoever, and when she in class, she did nothing. Or even when it's not, you're not in the height of your season, you're still slack in my class. So there's that responsibility on your side as well, and the parents have to ensure that as well. You have to understand your child has an added challenge, and we have to support her in facing that challenge, and, you know, owning up to the responsibility of what you have to do.
Thank you. Any further questions? Yes. Yes, so go back and then come back.
Pleasant good night to the members of the panel, and of course, all those gathered here. As the second Vice President of Secondary School Cricket, I found it fitting really just to maybe mention a couple of things. It's more a comment. You know, when we look at women's cricket, in particular girls' cricket, as mentioned at this level, I think it is nice, and I mean it's a good start, where we see the West Indies Cricket Board pardon, you know, all these contracts and, you know, on that financial end. But I think the real issue is, while they are targeting the upper end, what about the grassroots level, where it is really, really needed? And I think this is where we have to look at and have that partnering, PTCB, the Women's Cricket Association, and all the other, you know, affiliates. Because, you know, really, for sponsorship, I could say it very openly. When you look at the percentage, if you compare the boys to the girls, the women get less than 10% of sponsorship funds. So, yes, I think we are getting there, but we still have a little road to travel. And in order to get there, I really think that we need all hands on deck to really improve our local cricket and by extension, national cricket and West Indies cricket. Just to answer the gentleman to the back, with respect to, I know you asked the question with guest players. So for secondary school cricket, we have actually started this year with the girls cricket in the handball team. We have allowed 3 girls as guest players, but only 2 could play at one time. And at the zonal level, we allow 2 players as well. So for those schools that may not be participating, and if they have girls who actually enjoy the sport, and again, you never know where these players, where they can reach. We have also given that opportunity to play even for another school, even though their school is not participating. Additionally, and when it's late and people probably tired of it, we also have a tour with our VC Hub, and we'll also be given some opportunities to a couple girls for the girls hardball. So we are in the process of selecting that team. After we have 2 games on the 19th. So I know that some of them will be playing here. I already have some of the names, but you know, we try to go around because we have 4 teams that are playing in the girls hardball because we only recently started back this year because of course with COVID and things like that. So from a secondary school perspective, we are trying, but again, we really do need some additional help. So I just wanted to mention that to, you know, the person regarding this, you don't understand, you know, sometimes, you know, people speak a lot of things without understanding the logistics and really the grassroots of where really the problems are. Thank you very much.
Okay, to the moderator, if I may, house announcement. The driver of PDK 418, PDK 418. Thank you. Attentive vehicle. Thank you. One other question.
Yeah, what about sports specialization, Doc? Sometimes we take young athletes and we, like for cricket, we're speaking about the 10-year-old, right? And somewhere along the line, I mean, she's enjoying cricket at 10 years old, but she wanted to choose another sport because this may not really be her passion. And I'm asking this because some years ago, I think it was 2017 it was, I went to a World University Games and we had a national swimmer who was represented Trinidad and Tobago at World University Games. I happened to be the manager of the team. And she wanted to come out of swimming because her parents and the coach forced her into swimming and she was really good at it. They had a lot of documentaries on Trinidad on TV, and as she came back from World University Games, she came straight out of swimming. What about sports specialization and the athletes? So we have cricketers who begin playing from small. Is it that they want to play cricket? And if they do want to play cricket, one, what are we doing to keep them? If that is not their passion, what are we doing to guide them into a sport that they would really love?
That's an excellent point that you brought up. I didn't talk about it tonight in the talk because I only had so much time. There's actually a model called LTAB for short. It stands for long-term athlete development. It actually addresses what you talk about, which is essentially, in a way, athlete burnout. Or athlete fatigue, they call it different things, but the issue where you have an athlete who started in a sport very young, and at some point, due to different factors, they drop out because, either they lost passion for the sport, they were forced to do it. What that LTAD model does, or designed to do, is to ensure that the coaches and parents are always checking in with the child to make sure that fun and enjoyment is at the center of their sport participation rather than outcome, like we talked about many times here, right? Because too many times, a lot of coaches, especially when you have a star athlete, are so focused on pushing them through, because unfortunately sometimes they just see them as a money maker if they're really excellent, right? And they don't take time to step back and say, check in and see, are you actually enjoying this? And so they I would recommend actually doing some research into the LTAB model. It's split into several steps to make sure that, at the age, I forget the exact ages, but the first step is to just focus on fun. So you're not really pushing the child into competitions. You're trying to hone those motor skills and the coordination, balance. The focus of personal development is the goal. Then when they move into the teenage years or they pass the growth spurts where they can start to execute more difficult skills, then you could emphasize competition a little more. But even in those cases, it will be on the parents and coach. I would say it's both of those parties to really check in and make sure again that enjoyment is still a foundational aspect. And later on, if they want to continue into elite status, then we bring in some of the more advanced strength and conditioning and the other sport professionals who need to develop them specifically in the way that they need to. So the LTAD model is something that I would recommend for further research. And so to summarize what you asked, that would be my response. And again, I could talk to you more about it individually.
One last question.
Sure.
Ms. Monroe.
Yes.
I was telling Karen to piggyback off this question of preparing players mentally for losses. What do we do to actually celebrate them? I remember there was a WCPL finals that we were at, and it was played at the same ground as the men's team thereafter. And the women's are celebrating I believe it was the Barbados team was celebrating their win. They are on the side of the ground celebrating their win while the men are just warming up in the middle of the ground. What do we do? Any recommendations as to how we actually celebrate women's accomplishments? I think Coach missed my question entirely. It's along the lines of how do we ensure that we celebrate women's accomplishments. We talk more and more about preparing players mentally for losses, but to ensure that they actually are seen and shown and appreciated for what they accomplish in cricket.
I'm sure, were you here all the time? No, I'm just asking.
Yes.
Okay, so you saw when I came up, I made sure and recognized those players from the West Indies women's cricket team.
Because you missed the first part of my comment, I think the first part of my comment might assist you further. What I was saying is that I was at a WCPL match. It was the finals of the cricket match. It's played at the same ground there at Brian Lara. The CPL match is played thereafter. At the end of the championship match for the WCPL team, the men's players came out to warm up on the main ground. The championship team was celebrating the end of the side of the cricket ground. There is no actual celebration then for...
So we have to talk to CPL about that.
Oh, well, definitely, but...
I think for that question, it's important. Your community is important. No, because yeah, the men are there, but the people came to see the women. So the people who came to see the women, the fans, that is your community. So if your community celebrating with you, then the outside noise doesn't matter. Sometimes you cannot force people to see you. So,
Thank you for that comment. Yes. As we get ready to round up this evening.
Miss Samara Ramnath, I have a question for you. Would you be able to stand to show? So I know your brother quite well, Rajiv Ramnath. I lectured to him in the history of West Indian cricket around 7-8 years ago at the Cricket Academy. I want to congratulate you on your ascension as West Indies under-19 captain. And I want to refer to the recent World Cup in Malaysia. I think it was your fantastic figures that catapulted the women's team to the second round. But as captain, I wanted you to share briefly, did you see a gap, a large gap, wide gap between the other countries and our team? I know you're a young captain and I congratulate that. What did you observe? What is that thing you think? Was it mental? Is it that we need to do other things to get our women's cricket from the under-19 level to the top?
Yeah, I think at the under-19 World Cup, I think something that we lack is consistency. Looking at the other teams, I think, looking at India, they kept a consistent approach and attitude throughout all their games, and I think that's something we West Indians lack. So I think it's all about having confidence in yourself and just believing in yourself and backing your ability.
Thank you for sharing. So the last question to go around as we wrap up this evening. So Mr. Abbas Ali, how important do you think young female athletes, knowing their history of the game, is important, their performance and their motivation going forward? So that's your question, Mr. Abbas Ali, especially since history is very important to you. And knowing it, how important it is to young athletes and their motivation, and what age, as early as they should start knowing the pioneers and get to where they are today. Ms. Powers talked about that, you'd like to see. And knowing who came before and ahead, and she asked people to identify names. How important is that? And what age should they start knowing who their pioneers are in order to motivate them in their performance?
Okay. Let's start something off. A spiritual statement. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. That's the first thing. I think there's no necessary at what age, but we have to start absorption as early as we can. And that would come from obviously the home. how much are we exposing our children to the nuances of life, good and bad, you know? And I find, of course, you know, we are challenged right now in the homes, but parenting and children who listen are key. The history of cricket or any sport, we must, of course, have to appreciate it. Because unless we don't know our past, as I mentioned in my lecture, how are we going to go and shape our future? Education, you know, and I urge the youngsters here, young men and women, find out about your heroes. Find out who are your heroes. Ms. Powers, is it 1993 to 2005? As a player, wicketkeeper, batsman, and she made a wonderful impact on that era. So get to know your heroes. Talk to them if it is possible. You know. And the last point I want to make, Madam Moderator, we need to get our legends. I think people would have made this point before Dr. Rampart, is that we need to get our legends inside the classrooms and the academies to share their experiences, you know, and what they went through, their mental fortitude, their experiences. And we have so many of them. Just doing, very little. So, in summary, start your knowledge at the early age, and your parents would have to be the catalyst for that. Thank you.
Thank you. So as you wrap up our questions, thank you so much, Mr. Abbasali. That was your final question. Dr. Thomas, you mentioned diet when you were speaking. If I want to be a great athlete, do I have to be on a special diet for the rest of my life?
Not necessarily, but well, not for the rest of your life. I think it's really just, again, since we focus on girls, and the biggest factor that we have to consider with girls is the menstrual cycle. Just being mindful to, again, boost your iron, the foods that contain iron during that time. And also, in general, you need to consume more calories. It doesn't really matter where, well, let me not say it doesn't matter where, as long as they are healthy foods, like whole foods, it's not a bunch of crap. And when I say crap, there's actually an acronym for it. Like C stands for carbonated, sweetened beverages, so like soft drinks, sodas, any of that. The R stands for refined sugars. A is artificial foods, and P is processed foods. So so I like to tell my students, cut the crap from their diets with that acronym. So honestly, like once you minimize the crap that you consume in your diet, and just be mindful on increasing your iron during the menstrual cycle. That is all you really need to do at the moment.
Great. Cut the crap. Cut the crap. Ms. Khan, do you worry that goodwill sometimes stands in the way of having those official assets, resources necessary for the moving forward of students to be involved in sports? Or are you not worried at all?
Teacher, I'm always worried. But I have hope. That is a good point. That yes, we rely a lot on people extending themselves, and sometimes when people consistently extend themselves, they can be taken for granted. And so there's always the thing, what is the right balance? You know, as a friend said, the right balance between resistance and revolt, you know, and campaigning and advocating for change and for what you deserve. You know, when do you say, okay, fine, I am going to not protest or not kick a fuss, I'm going to do it in spite of. But sometimes you have to really stop and look back. Is my continuing to do this and being so good and extending my goodwill, is it preventing the change that is necessary? So I guess a lot of discernment is required in the choices we make, in how what we do decide to do or not to do.
And Ms. Powers, the final lot meant on you. Can you remind us what motivated you as a sportswoman to keep going at your sport? Can you tell these young ladies what that was? Can you encourage them to continue going forward? And can you encourage the parents and onlookers who may be supporters of sports and young athletes, how they can keep encouraging their athletes to go forward? But first, tell us what motivated you as a sportswoman to keep going. And then tell these ladies how to keep their motivation up. And all of us who are onlookers supporting them in their initiatives.
My love for the sport. I just loved cricket. Do you know that I'm in the record books, huh? I'm going to stand up for that. I'm in the record books as the oldest cricketer to have played in a World Cup. I think I beat a man by some days or something like that. Yes, don't ask me the age, but I was 48 years old when I captained the West Indies team in South Africa. That was because of my love for the sport. I didn't want to stop. In fact, the reason why I stopped is because Mr. Ann Brown said, when are you going to stop playing cricket? But I just love the game. And if you love the game, you will have the passion for the game. And you will continue. You can't play so old now, because when you reach about 33, they're looking to throw you out. Right? But in my days, we didn't have much women playing the game. So I think that's the reason why I stayed on. And I was wicketkeeper too. I remember in the World Cup in South Africa, the South Africans came and they said they came to see this woman who was 48 years old and wicket keeping. So here I was diving around and they said, do you want to eat different food in the Caribbean? How come at your age you're still wicket keeping and you know how hard wicket keeping is? Up and down, side to side for about 300 plus balls. And I was the captain too, so I had to concentrate on who's the ball and the fielding. So I think I just loved it. I came from a cricketing family, so my parents, my sisters and brothers played cricket, and I just love the cricket. So if you love the cricket, you have the passion for it, continue. You will reach far, like I did.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience tonight. We certainly appreciate it. Before I hand it over to Mr. Rampart, PEB 420, PEB 420. Oh, okay. They wanted to attend to your video. Let's put our hands one more time together for our panel tonight. Mr. Abbas Ali, Dr. Thomas, Ms. Powers, and Ms. Khan. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us this evening. So I hand you over now to our chairperson.
Thank you to the panel and Ms. for that very enlightening segment. Now we move on. I know we are hungry, we are tired, we are restless, right? So we can't go without awarding, recognizing people, celebrating certain individuals. So the first person that we'd like to recognize tonight, our young players, Samara Ramnath, a 17-year-old student of Saraswati Girls Hindu College. We all know that she has established herself as a promising cricketer with a commendable track record. Samara achieved the distinction of being appointed captain of the Trinidad and Tobago under-19 team, marking her first leadership role. This year, she was also appointed captain of the West Indies under-19 team to the ICC World Cup, further solidifying her status as a standout player. So I invite you to come to the front, Samara, and if I may call on Brittany to make a token presentation to her. So we continue, thank you Brittany. We continue to celebrate and recognize our talented players among us. So
Amrita Ramdahal is also a talented 15-year-old cricketer and student of the Barrapo East Secondary School. She started playing cricket at age 6. In 2024, she was selected for the Trinidad and Tobago Under-19 women's team, and by January of this year, 2025, she represented the West Indies Under-19 women's team at the ICC World Cup in Malaysia. So I invite Amrita to come to the front, please. And if I may call on Ms. Power to present this token to her. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Power. Congratulations, Amrita. Brianna Harry Charan is also a talented student of St. Augustine Girls High School. She has achieved remarkable milestones in her cricketing career. At just 14 years old, she joined the Trinidad and Tobago National Senior Women's Cricket Team, becoming the youngest cricketer to debut in the CG United Women's Super 50 Cup and T20 Blaze tournaments in 2024. So, from there, we know her journey also includes being part of the triumphant Trinidad and Tobago Under-19s women team that clinched victory in the 2023 Rising Star Regional Under-19 tournament. Last year, Brianna earned a spot in the prestigious West Indies Under-19 women's cricket setup, and she later represented the West Indies Under-19 women at the 2025 Women's T20 Under-19 World Cup in Malaysia. Her standout performance in the Trinidad and Tobago Premiership T20 earned her the Best Bowling Award in 2024, with an exceptional highlight of taking 4 wickets for 4 runs in just 3 overs. In her 2025 cricketing prowess was further demonstrated in the secondary schools cricket, where she scored an impressive 122 runs and followed it up with 80 runs off 27 balls. So Brianna, if you can come up and take the spotlight, and to make this token presentation to her, Dr. Thomas. Congratulations, Brianna. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. And we hope to see many more in the future. So, Jana Mohammed, she is a talented cricketer. I don't know how many of us know Jana. Showcasing her versatility as a left-hand batter, right-arm leg break bowler, and wicket-keeper. In 2025, she achieved a remarkable milestone with a record-breaking score of 227 runs in the secondary schools cricket girls open tournament. A member of the AC Women Cricket Club, Jana is also actively involved in the TTWCB Under-16 developmental program, highlighting her dedication to honing her skills and contributing to the sport. All right, so we know that she plays other sports as well. So Jana, if I may ask you to come up, invite you to come up and take the spotlight. To make this token presentation to her, Mr. Ali. Some history in the making here, sir. Congratulations and best wishes to Jana. So, the young people got theirs, right? They received their awards, and all these hard-working people. We do this after. All right. So we know it's late, so CEO was advising that we will now have the vote of thanks. So to do that, we have Ishana. I'll invite you to come and give the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I feel a distinct pleasure in being part of this very historic event by being asked to say thank you to those who have contributed to its success. On behalf of K. Rampa Cricket Academy, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the esteemed panelists, Dr. Shanice Thomas, Ms. Lizette Khan, Ms. Stephanie Power, and Mr. Rizi Abbas Ali. You have so warmly brought your expertise, skill, and knowledge to a very appreciative audience. Ms. Sherry Lynn Legal, we deeply appreciate the astute manner which you maneuvered the discussion. We are also in debt to your institution, the University of the Southern Caribbean, and Messrs. Rodney Rajkumar and Leroy Pay for their kind intervention. To the awardees, you have worked hard to bring glory to yourselves and to your country, and you have exceeded your expectations. You have demonstrated to the younger generations that with the right effort and commitment, they too can achieve. Thank you. The benefactors of this event, Mohammed Bookstore, KFC, and Mr. Lacey Williams, thank you for your contributions to making the event a significant success. To the athletes, Ihan, we appreciate your skillful renditions. To Ms. Chandra Sivadas Mahabir, thank you for chairing this event. We are also grateful to Mr. Kiran Rampat for his brief overview of the organization. To host the first ever Women's Symposium in this region is both a challenging and rewarding exercise. Many thanks to the K. Rampat Cricket Academy and to all those who work behind the scenes to realize this occasion. Cricket 360 has been instrumental in bringing this event to many across the region. We thank you and your immense generous contribution. To the listening audience here and abroad, we appreciate your support, your questioning, and your interactions. Your presence and participation brought liveliness and exuberance to this evening's affair. To all those who work in the background, we offer profound thanks. Names are too many. Finally, eternal gratitude to the divine for bestowing pleasant weather and choice blessings. Thank you and good evening to all.
Well done, Ishana. So I think with that note of thank you there, as a chairperson, I don't really need to make any closing remarks. But as we come to the end of the symposium, I want us to take a moment to reflect on the powerful conversations, the inspiring ideas, and the shared vision that have emerged from our time together. Thank you to all the presenters and to the Kumar Rampat Academy, right, for facilitating this, and for lighting the way forward. I hope that this symposium has energized each of us to continue supporting and uplifting women's cricket, not just as spectators or fans, but as active participants in its growth. Let us all play our part in ensuring that this sport continues to thrive and that its influence extends far beyond the boundaries of the field. As we leave today, let us carry with us the lessons learned and hopes shared. Let us commit to fostering inclusivity, nurturing talent, and celebrating the incredible potential of women in cricket. Together, we can pave the way for a brighter future, one where equality and opportunity are not aspirations but realities. Thank you for your presence, your contributions, and your unwavering dedication to the cause of women's cricket. May we continue to work together, not just to advance the sport, but to empower every individual, every young girl who dreams of making a difference. Thank you, and I wish you all a safe journey home, filled with the hope and inspiration